Yeah, I mean, I think if you take a very simple case, and I think everybody can identify with this if they've got like a home security system, right? You've got cameras around your house, something happens outside that you can go back in time and you can look at the video and say, oh my gosh, somebody broke into my car last night, but you're not notified in real time that there's something
Mm.
happening, right? And so what AI can do is it can watch the video and it's kind of like a virtual assistant that's watching what's happening in real time and then immediately tells you like, hey, it's time, it's time to walk out front, somebody's trying to break into your car, is an example a consumer would understand. But in factories, it's more about, like I said, it's being able to look at the quality of products as they move across the production line. It's helping the people kind of take action when there's an issue that needs to be dealt with. Another example of this is in cybersecurity. There might be hundreds of millions of events. It's really impossible for a human to look at all of those events in real time, but AI can look at that and say, okay, here's the 10 that are most urgent and most critical for you, the person, to go take a look at, to prevent, security breaches as well.
So when I hear some of those examples you just talked about, I immediately think about what's happening today in a lot of different organizations, whether they're in manufacturing, whether they're in hospitality. There's like people keep talking about this labor shortage. And the way you describe it, I think about like how being alerted to what is wrong could potentially move resources to that problem, given, the limited resources, so you could better scale or throughput more work or whatever the case may be. Is that how companies are thinking of this? Like how they want to be resource efficient in regards to scale? Is it they're trying to do that on top of being unlocking new ways of doing things? Like give us an idea of, I guess, the push to do this. I feel like the resource constraints we hear about all the time in labor markets is really doing the push, but I'd love to hear how these companies are coming to you guys thinking about how they're going to scale, what they want to apply this technology towards.
Yeah, I mean, I think the labor shortage that we see is a big driver of this. And you can think of AI as giving the people that are working there kind of superpowers, right? To do more with less and help them, not have to, like we said, in a retail store, walk every aisle to look at what shelves to replenish, but just get notified. The people that you have on staff a bunch of time, and it focuses them on where their time basically would drive better customer outcomes, right? I'd say en masse, that's the value of AI. It's helping businesses achieve, better operational efficiency, give their customers a better shopping experience, making sure that, we're delivering higher quality products to our customers, all those good attributes that I think every global brand in the world across every industry ultimately wants to deliver to their customers.
And give me an idea of this advantage that's happening at the edge because this has been long thought of as people wanted to move compute there, but then like 5G came around and the internet network speeds got faster. And so then some people said, well, we can move all the data to the cloud or data center, compute it there, send the result or the insight after back to the store in this example. Give us an idea of what this AI at the edge is unlocking. Like, what's the difference? Because there's certainly some people who still think that way, which is, well, I'll just take all the data, move it through the cloud into another data center, figure it out, then come back and send the signal. This is what I want done.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine if you're focused on loss prevention or making sure somebody doesn't walk out of the store with a product that they
Mm.
buy, you need to basically have real time alerts. You can't wait for the data to be pushed all the way to another data center and then get that notification, back to your store associates. So that's really where we see, edge compute and edge AI kind of being pushed to the edge, right? Is where the data volumes are just too big to move to a central location. A store that's running with cameras all over the place and potentially other sensors. I mean, they're generating terabytes a day of data, and it's the cost of backhauling all that data to a central location is too high, and like we said, you just don't have the instant insights to drive the business efficiency. More and more, I think we're going to see the data center transforming. So instead of it being like in a central location where you've got thousands of servers that you bring all the data to, your data center of the future is going to look like, one or two computers in thousands of locations, highly distributed. And in those locations, you have to assume like there's no IT staff in a lot of cases. You just can't afford to have IT everywhere. You don't have the same security standards as you have in a data center where you've got, I'll call it guards, gates, and guns is kind of the way they typically talk about it. And so all the physical security, how you manage it, all that stuff completely changes as you really kind of move your business into this distributed edge AI intelligence era.
The way you were describing just saying, I was thinking about like all the things that need time, like are time constraint. And, you used the security example, and I think that's a great example. And then my mind immediately thought to, well, what about a non-nefarious but clearly bothersome bad customer experience, time sensitive event that this potentially could help? And My mind keeps defaulting this because I just lost my bags while traveling. We keep hearing about what's happening in Europe with all the baggage loss, but like, this is a serious problem. Like, people cannot figure out how to move, like you said, this much throughput of information. It's not something's not working, right? And we only have limited resources. Like, this is something that's very much time constrained because if you and me get on a plane with our bags, that's it. Like, it's done. Like, we can't solve the problem afterward.
Right. Our
Like,
trip is ruined. So we need to show up with our bags. Yeah.
yeah, so like these things are happening. For the longest time, all the talk about cloud or moving to the cloud was around cost savings, and then I think people started finding out that it's actually quite expensive or can be expensive to maintain all your infrastructure on the cloud. It sounds like this would require more equipment at the locations. Do you see how companies are trying to do cost benefit analysis? Like, give us an idea of how they're thinking of this, because with that also comes a layer of security. You kind of mentioned it with you have to protect the equipment. I don't know if that's a big problem. Give us an idea of where this, how that's weighing in on like a modern CIO's decision making.
I think the cloud still is going to play a huge role, and everybody talks about
Hmm.
hybrid cloud, right? When it comes to AI workflows, I mean, just to talk about this for a minute, is usually where most companies start is the cloud, and they basically start with call it a labeled data set that they want to be able to look at with AI. And then they train those models in the cloud, and then they will ultimately take them and push them out to the edge location so that they can, look at the streaming data coming from the sensors. If the model that's running in production isn't able to recognize what's happening in the physical world, it'll still bring data back into the cloud so that you can, relabel and retrain the model and then push it back out to the edge store. So, for the last decade, I think everybody's talking about continuous integration and deployment of software. Artificial intelligence is the same way. It's the continuous integration and deployment of, AI models. I think the way the CIOs are going to look at it is, there's still I'll call it my core data scientists and my core AI researchers that are going to want to work in the cloud to be able to train the models, prove that they're viable. And then when I move them to production, I push that model out to the compute that's at the edge. And so, I think edge complements the cloud in that case, right? And you use the compute that's near the sensors at the edge. You bring back, new training data sets into your core data center, so your data scientists have access to it. And then that, continuous loop basically repeats itself as you drive more and more business efficiency.
My old world thinking, I served as a CIO for companies, and whenever would hear new innovations, my mind would be like, well, how's this going to be maintained? Because of course, if this is AI, it's got to constantly be updated. It's got to constantly be given the best models, the best data, the most accurate results. And it also needs a feedback loop, which is I need to be able, as a consumer of your product, have to be able to send a response to say like, hey, that wasn't right or that was wrong. Something that helps teach the model even more information so it becomes more accurate. But the way you described it there, it sounds like this is how you guys it's engineered to continuously evolve. Give us an idea of like how you and your team are approaching building these. I keep saying machine, but I don't know if you guys are like, it's not that big of a machine. It's like a small little blade that you put in on a rack.
Yeah. These, we call them Jetson processors, right? They're ARM-based processors with embedded GPUs, and they're tens of watts, right? They can run out at the edge and look at cameras. From there, all the way up to, rack levels of servers, depending on how many cameras you're trying to look at. But, the server's one aspect. There's kind of, I'll say 3 or 4 layers of technology, right? The way we looked at it is, okay, the transformation that's going on is you're basically running servers really in what you traditionally think of as your OT footprint. And the IT team need to make it easier to deploy and manage that infrastructure in the OT environment. So where we started was, okay, let's make sure that anybody can take a server off the shelf, plug it into power and networking in the store, authenticate it into the cloud service, just like you would do with a Nest setting it up in your house. And then all the software, and all the security automatically kind of gets installed on that edge device. And then through the cloud platform, kind of your central IT resources can remotely see what's going on, remotely debug it, deploy applications in a secure way, deploy models in a secure way, kind of, obviously see what's happening in all of these edge locations and be able to push, over-the-air updates, right? From the operating system up to the applications and up to the models. And so that platform that we've built is kind of call it a reference platform that we call Fleet Command. It's a cloud service, and we offer that, through other, like say, software licenses to help people get started. Some enterprises want to consume, I'll say, turnkey services like that. Others may have their own, infrastructure footprint. And by infrastructure, I mean their traditional IT tools with partners like VMware, our partners with Red Hat. We work with them too to bring all the, I'll say, foundational innovations of Fleet Command into those other platforms so that we can make it easy to deploy AI applications at the edge, manage them securely, and kind of manage them at scale.
Hey, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to us by Salesforce Platform. Visit salesforce.com/newsletter to discover timely insights and useful tips tailored to your role. Subscribe to this channel and get more great IT and tech interviews with top industry leaders.